Welcome back, everyone, to Box Podcast, your favourite Formula One podcast. And yes, I know, I'm sorry we are a little bit late. Obviously, the race happened late last night. We then couldn't film after that, and schedules clashed today. So we are bringing this to you at the earliest possible opportunity. But my God, do we have a lot to dive into. I think this is one of the hottest weekends we've got to talk about for a number of reasons. It is 30 degrees outside right now. We had Lewis Hamilton finishing P2. We had Max Verstappen on the podium for the first time this season. We had George and Kimi Antonelli coming awfully close to each other all race, and we had a McLaren disaster class. But on top of that, there is much more to speak about. But before we get into the podcast, do make sure you give it a 5-star rating wherever you are listening to us, because it does make a big difference. Leave comments wherever you can. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Give us a big thumbs up and subscribe if you're new around here. You can follow us on social media if you would like more Box content. Also, we are Box Podcast in collaboration with Box Club. If you want to check them out, there is a little discount for you in the description down below, but it is free to use, so that is up to you. Anyway, I'm not going to waste your time anymore. Let's get on with the show.
All right, guys, welcome along to a brand new episode. And it was a good race. It was nice to see Lewis Hamilton on the podium again with Kimi. But yeah, like Luke said, we got a lot to discuss. One thing which we will discuss is I made a comment in our group this weekend, and Luke felt the need to try and take the piss. Be the alpha male and go, look at this, trying to, belittle me in front of the group. I'll talk about that shortly. However, welcome along.
Whoa. Wait, we will get into that. I just want to say, stick around for that, because you're going to soon realise that what Matt has just said is victim behaviour, and he was actually in the wrong. And all I did was say, you are wrong.
Okay, we'll get into it. But part of me, I don't think I am wrong on this one. Stick around.
We'll let you guys at home decide.
But welcome along. So if you're new to this podcast and you've never listened to us before, what we do is we review the weekend. We go by team. Luke, where would you like to start?
I want to start with a team that I felt like weren't going to have a good weekend when we were getting into things. But it turns out they had a fantastic weekend. And that team is Alpine.
Mm.
Did I shock you with that? Have you got to scroll all the way down to them?
Yeah, no. Look, Luke, you've said a lot of bad things about Colapinto over the year. Only joking. You love Colapinto. You like Colapinto. I'm only joking. Colapinto, he's coming into his own now, finishing P6 in a race ahead of Pierre Gasly. A very solid performance, picking up 8 points. The Alpine's looking good. It is looking good. It's looking the best of the rest.
Yeah, I would say they've kind of cemented that. I mean, I do think the Racing Bull was also looking really good this weekend. So I think you could argue that those two are perhaps going to yo-yo a little bit this season for who we consider best of the rest. But yeah, look, Franco Colapinto, I think, is moving into that phase that we all knew was there, or at least we all wanted it to be there. We'd heard so much about Franco Colapinto. We know that Alpine paid a good sum of cash for him. I personally didn't feel like he showed that potential at Williams. That was just my opinion. It caused controversy. And I've always said, I hope he proves me wrong. I love nothing more than, having something not necessarily positive to say about a driver and then being proven wrong. And he is doing that. But Alpine as a team are doing that. The team is really pushing forward. We've spoken about the Flavio Briatore effect. It was either going to send them to the gutter or it was going to elevate them. And he has lifted them out of the gutter.
And honestly, it's great to see. It really is good to see because, Alpine only 4 years ago, were challenging for P4, P5 in the constructors. So to see them actually getting back into the swing now, two drivers actually consistently picking up points. I mean, what was that? 12 points in the race yesterday for Alpine. A fantastic haul of points.
Yeah, and Colapinto was one place off getting a point in the sprint race as well, so they'll be really happy. I mean, look, I think they could have taken even just one step forward and come into the 2026 season, and they would have been happy based off how disastrous last season was. But they haven't. They've taken a giant leap forward. They look like the team that we expect Alpine to be. Alpine are Renault, and they've got good heritage in the sport. So it's good to see them where they should be. It's great to see that Franco Colapinto is standing on his own 2 feet now. I would say last season, even though they were terrible, they were still like sort of, Team Gasly. There was no real contribution from Colapinto, and again, if that upsets you, just look at the facts. But this season, yeah, he's doing great.
I think that's a fair point. It was Team Gasly last year. It was very much so. Colapinto wasn't really in the mix, so I don't think that's an unfair comment at all.
But now you look at it, and there's 5 points between them, which is not a lot whatsoever. And I don't think that would have been the case last season if they were in this position. Franco Colapinto has stepped up, in my opinion. It's not just the fact that he's now got a car that is capable of doing it, because I think you saw Gasly dragging that car through the trenches where Colapinto didn't, but Franco has stepped up massively.
No, it's good to see. It really is good to see. My God, it is hot. I know that is
hot.
A very stupid comment to say, but it is hot. It is hot. Anyway, where should we move forward to? Let's talk about RBs, because you touched on them. Liam Lawson, very solid performance yesterday, picking up a P7. Unfortunately, Lindblad didn't get to start. Couldn't get off the line at the beginning, so that led to another 2 formation laps. But on a whole, he looked pretty good this weekend, Lindblad. It'd be very disappointed not to get out there and race yesterday.
Yeah, he'll be up there with one of the most disappointed of the weekend. I think there'll be one man in particular a little bit more disappointed than Lindblad, but it was a real shame. It's kind of some drivers you just think, oh man, you just don't deserve that. He's come in, it's his first season in F1. He's really looking alive. And then he qualifies, what was it, P7, P8, wherever it was something like that. And you're like, yeah, he's going to get points here. And then to not even pull off the line. But the start procedure, did that throw you completely? I was like, what the hell is it? I was like, the system's broken, or whoever's pressing the buttons is having a laugh.
I thought my TV had frozen.
Yeah, that's not a bad
I was like, what's going on here? But yeah, no, it just completely, it did throw me off. I love the fact that, after Antonelli, because he jumped a bit, didn't he? They were like, oh, I wonder if he's going. And Martin Brundle was very much like, no, he can't get a penalty for that. So
what, jump starting a false start?
Yeah, basically. But no, it was disappointing for Lindblad, but I see a lot in him, and I think he will come out. I think he's doing all right. It's been a good start for him this year. But Liam Lawson, very solid yesterday. Very solid.
Yeah. Liam Lawson is another one who is really coming into his own. I think it would have been very easy for Liam Lawson to fade away. And, after everything he went through with the Red Bull saga, I genuinely believed Arvid Lindblad was going to come in and look confidently like the stronger driver. And
after that performance in Australia, I was a bit like, Lawson's in trouble here.
Yeah, big trouble, right? But he hasn't. He hasn't lost his head. He's kept it together, and he's pumping out points. So I think RB are in a very good place, because again, we know RB are never going to be battling the Mercedes, the Ferraris, your McLarens, Red Bulls, because they're not designed to. But they're exactly where they should be, or where they'd want to be, and they've got 2 drivers, in my opinion, that are doing the absolute business for them.
Yeah, it's solid. It really is solid. Audi. P12 for Nico Hulkenberg, P13 for Bortoleto. Quite a eventful day for them. They were having penalties. I know Bortoleto got a penalty, 5-second penalty as well, which was added on at the end. bit of a nothing weekend for them, really. But again, they're still in progression, aren't they?
Yeah, and look, I think Audi are in. I'm trying to think who they're comparable to in previous seasons, where they're like, they are good, they're solid, they kind of have all the cogs in place.
Yeah.
But it's like it needs like an extra bit of lubrication so they're all like moving smoothly, because they're always just that much off points. You know, they just miss it by a hair. And you know, obviously the running joke this season is that Nico Hülkenberg loves P11, which is a funny joke, but it's not for Nico Hülkenberg, because that means every race he's essentially, you know, one place off getting points. And
it was like Sergio Perez a couple of years ago. He was always P11, always P11 in that Red Bull.
And those points, when you are, you know, further down further back in the grid, like Audi are, those points matter. You know, picking up that P10, that P9, every single race makes such a big difference when you get to the end of the season, because it's very, very rare that those teams get the opportunity to make a big points haul. So they kind of always need to be picking up those small little numbers consistently throughout the season, and they're just missing out on that. I think is it 3 points they have all season? Two points. Nico Hülkenberg is yet to pick up a point. That will make it even more painful, the P11 thing. And I know he didn't finish P11 yesterday, but I'm pretty sure he qualified P11.
I know there was Crofty said, there's one person who'll guarantee, Nico Hülkenberg P11 qualifying.
He just cannot escape it. But yeah, a bit of a nothing weekend for Audi. But again, I think that whole project is probably going exactly how they would have wanted it to. It would be completely unrealistic to expect Audi to come into the sport and go and dominate. Yeah. You know, we've only had one story in our lifetime like that, and that was the Brawn GP story. And they made a movie on it because that's how unrealistic it is. So for Audi to be where they are, I think they will be very satisfied. But I think they will be getting to a point where they're like, okay, we need to start picking up points. Because like I said, they're not going to get opportunities, or many, to get big points hauls. No, so they have to start getting those 1 points, 2 points.
Talking about at 1 point, Ollie Behrman picking up a P10 for Haas yesterday. Interestingly, you may have seen this, that Esteban Ocon seems to be under a lot of pressure. There's a lot of speculation that actually he may not see the end till the end of the season. Again, a very difficult race for him yesterday, finishing 2 laps behind the leader, finishing P14. Ollie Behrman picked up a P10. He's getting schooled by Ollie, and there is a lot of pressure on Ocon.
Yeah, Ocon's having a tough season, and I have seen the rumours that I read rumours that he had fallen out with Ayo Komatsu, and you know the last person you want to fall out with is your boss, because especially when there's only 2 positions at the team available and you're one of them, you know.
Also,
if you're not picking up the point,
how can you fall out with Ayo? Because he seems such a chilled guy.
He seems like the happiest bloke in the world.
Like, you must have really peed him off if you actually got on his bad books, because he seems like the genuine, like, nicest guy. So,
but I will say, and you know, just to set the record straight, I like Esteban Ocon, but there is this common theme that he does seem to fall out with people. You know, he got booted out of Alpine. And I mean, it's not often you see stuff like that happen, where that was an accumulation of things. You know, let's not be stupid here. It wasn't just, Esteban Ocon crashed into Pierre Gasly at Monaco, therefore he's lost his seat. No, that would have been the tip of the iceberg. You know, that was just the nail in the coffin for him. So things must have been going on. Is Esteban Ocon a difficult person to deal with? I don't know, but history would suggest that he is seemingly in many a rift with people.
A challenging character.
Yeah, which, you know, it would be a shame because he always comes across really nice on camera, and I'm sure he is. But when people are in those work environments and they're stressed, and it's difficult. And also, he's not only got the pressure of being an F1 driver, he's now got the pressure of this young, not rookie anymore, but young driver who's turning up week in, week out. You know, Ollie Behrman's on 18 points. Esteban Ocon has got 1 this season. And I know it's early on, but again, Haas are not a team that are going to be able to easily pick up, as a driver, 5 points of a weekend or 10 points. So, you know, that's a big gap for Esteban Ocon to claw back now. And that will be piling on the pressure. And it really doesn't help if you've fallen out with your boss, who's the nicest bloke in the world.
Yeah, agreed. Aston Martin, one person who's very laid back at the moment, Lance Stroll. Don't know if you've seen some interviews with him over the weekend. My God, he is basically horizontal.
Well, I mean, are you surprised, right? The bro has to turn up, drive around at not even a quick speed. It doesn't even require concentration because the car's not quick enough. His dad is a billionaire. He is a Formula One driver. His dad actually owns the team. Job security on lock. I'd be the most relaxed guy in the world.
Yeah,
genuinely.
Finished 4 laps behind the leader. Finishing P15. Fernando Alonso started the weekend by basically saying that actually he's still one of the best drivers on the grid. Heading into, was it sprint quali? He decides to bin it in a wall. So well done, Alonso. Very good choice of words. And then
what have you got to say on his point? Is Fernando Alonso still one of the best drivers on the grid?
He's a 2-time world champion. He's a very good driver. He is not in the same category as the likes of Max, Lewis.
Do you think that Fernando Alonso, if he was at McLaren, who's finishing ahead in the championship, him or Lando Norris? Who would be world champion last year?
Oh, I would go Lando.
Oh wow!
And if you know me, that is a big comment. I think at this stage, Fernando Alonso isn't as good now as what people think he is. He's a 2-time world champion. Yes, he's a very good driver. In 2023, he had a really good start to the year. We saw really, good fight from Fernando Alonso there. But I don't know. My money would be on Lando.
Yeah, but I think that's a fair point. I think it's a fair point because, okay, I know we've got the power of hindsight here, but Lando Norris won a world championship last year. Lando Norris is a quick driver, very quick driver. We all know that. And Fernando Alonso hasn't won for absolutely years. I would love to see, genuinely, Fernando Alonso in a top car that is able to battle, because I think we can't really say whether Fernando has it or not still, because he hasn't got that opportunity. And yeah, he did well in 2023 when they did come out the blocks firing, but again, that was another 3 years ago. But the same people that will come out and say, oh, Fernando hasn't lost it just because he's old, they'll be the same people that comment, oh, Lewis is washed because he's 41 years old. So you can't have it both ways.
Fair point. Also, we've got to remember, Lando Norris went head-to-head with Oscar Piastri and Max Verstappen last year and still came out on top. So, yeah. Fair play, Lando, fair play. Right, Williams. Difficult day for Alex Albon. He had that was a nasty collision. And Sky F1, I know it's not necessarily you get a feed in, but why did I have to watch that crash from Oscar Piastri and Alex Albon on Twitter or X?
No, can I just say, we've complained about this before. Sky F1 have got to sort out their TV direction. It sometimes is so bad, and you're right to bring that up. We didn't even see the crash. Like it's like they're not responsive. They don't react to things. Things happen, and then they're like, it's even like you can look at the timing screen, right? And you can see, like, for example, oh, Lewis is now like 0.1 second behind Max Verstappen. And they're showing a battle at the front, which I understand it's at the front. And it's like, okay, but they're not about to overtake each other. Why don't you cut to like an overtake that we're about to see? It's like, no, we can't turn away from this. And then we end up missing everything.
Well, you look at this. You look at the sprint race. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Kimi going off or being pushed off by George or whatever you want to say it was. We didn't even see that until after the race. Like, why? Is that such
honestly,
a big thing?
The TV direction is so bad sometimes. Like, I wish. I'm sure the job is really, really hard, by the way. And obviously, you've got 22 cars that you could potentially show. So you've got to keep your eyes on 22 things, essentially. But I feel like sometimes there are just basic ones that they miss. And
well, I know we said this last time, and we got criticised because it's not necessarily Sky F1 who do the direction. It comes in, they get fed into them, I think.
So it gets fed in from F1. I thought that was... Okay, so they get the feed from F1 TV.
Yeah.
All right, public apology. Sky F1, I am sorry. F1 TV, sort your shit out.
So Alex Albon had a very nasty collision with Oscar Piastri, basically taking off his right-hand side pod, completely just demolished. So he ended up retiring. But Carlos Sainz, P9, picking up 2 points. They're slowly getting there, aren't they? Slowly but surely.
Yep. Williams came into this season with a lot of pressure on them. The pressure that they themselves had mounted. You know, no one else was saying Williams are going to be a team to watch in 2026. Williams themselves said that. And they disappointed everyone. You know, the car was overweight. They had a number of issues that they were dealing with that prevented them from even turning up to, pre-season testing. And then the season started and it was dismal. But now they are slowly chipping away at it. And I think we're getting more to the place where we thought Williams would be. I don't think I ever expected Williams to come out and be fighting with Ferrari, Red Bull, Mercedes. At this point, I think it's possible for any team. But I think they've probably made it to the point where they can breathe a little bit and be like, oh my God, people probably aren't laughing at us anymore.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But what was your thoughts on the Alex Albon crash? Like, I assume you think Piastri was in the wrong.
Yeah, I think he went too heavy into that corner, turn 10. I think he just went...
I think sometimes the issue is with these drivers that are often used to racing at the front and they know their cars are quicker. I do think sometimes there's an arrogance about them where they think, oh, well, like, you know, they should have just let me through here. And I don't think Oscar was like this at all. I don't think he came out and said anything like that. But I'm saying when they're in the seat, and it's not just Oscar, you see it with everyone. The Lewis, Max, when they're racing these cars at the back because of some issue, I do feel like there's an arrogance about them. And I think Oscar Piastri paid the price for that arrogance because that really did ruin his race, but it was already ruined. But Alex Albon paid the heaviest price. So I just think it's something that these drivers should think about.
Yeah, no, you got a 10-second penalty, but obviously Albon ended up retiring. But yeah, nasty crash. Let's quickly touch. We'll get onto McLaren in a second, but let's just touch on Cadillac. Sergio Perez retired. Valtteri Bottas P16. That's it. Let's move on to McLaren.
No, I've got something I want to talk about.
Oh. Yeah.
You have got to respect Sergio Perez and Liam Lawson for their continued hatred towards one another. Honestly, I can't do anything but just respect it. The fact they hate each other so much that they'll just drive into each other on track. And for the record, it was Sergio Perez at fault this weekend for their coming together. But you've got, to hate someone that much. I mean, it's impressive.
It is.
Who got the last laugh out of that Perez and Lawson, debacle? We all know this stemmed from, go back 2024.
24.
That's where it all stemmed from. I think the big one was, God, I can't remember. Was it Mexico?
Yeah.
Mexico. But they had beef in multiple races, and Liam Lawson obviously then goes on to take Sergio Perez's seat. However, fast forward to where we are now. Who got the last laugh?
Oh, Sergio Perez all day long. Day long, right? He had successful season. Well, I say successful season. He was at Red Bull for a long period of time.
He did have some successful seasons at Red Bull.
So he had those. He then got let go by Red Bull. He had a year out. He's come back into Cadillac. He's just coming back for like a retirement season or two. Liam Lawson was like, giving him the finger, flying down in Mexico. I'm going to take your seat. Lasted 2 races, got rejected back to RB. If you're Sergio Perez, right, I guarantee he probably sits at home and watches that on a weekly basis.
Yeah. If he wakes up one morning and he's like, I'm feeling a bit rough today, feeling a bit down. I know what. I watched Liam Lawson's last race, and he probably laughs himself back to happiness. Which this all stems from they really dislike each other. I think that to me shows on track. But yeah, I agree. Liam Lawson did not get the last laugh, but look, Liam Lawson is doing great at Racing Bull. I do think Perez is the right man for this Cadillac job. In terms of building the team, I wouldn't keep him long term.
No. Talking of a team who didn't do a good job yesterday, McLaren. So, lads, I'm going to put it out there, okay? You have all this technology in front of you, right? Probably 10 other teams decide to go, we're going on slicks. This is the best way to do it. You can see the weather forecast, okay? But you decide to go on inters. What I think you should do is scrap that. Just download BBC Weather. That will tell you. That'll give you a better indication of where to go.
I've got something even better than that.
Yeah.
Right, McLaren, listen up, because I'm about to solve all your issues. What I have right here behind me, behind the camera, is a window. And if I look through it, I can see exactly what the weather is outside. Now, if I was working at McLaren at the weekend just gone, I would have said, hang on, boys. Slicks. Problem solved. They'd be in a battle for potentially P1, podium, definitely the podium. But no, they decided to use the radar. Well, the radar let you down, boys, and always trust your instincts.
And don't get me wrong, there was teams who were close to being, Max said that he was close to putting on inters, he was unsure about it. But, I mean, come on.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. And I get that, right? Sometimes mistakes happen. They were gambling. It really wasn't worth a gamble in their position. They were second row. But let's say, they fancied a night on the slots and they were going to gamble. When it was very evident that the gamble wasn't going to pay off, and they essentially got a get out of jail free card, not completely, but they could have not had to have made the pit stop. They could have come in after 2 failed formation laps, and they didn't. They decided to do a racing lap or 2 and then come in. I just think it was a mistake that didn't need to be made twice, right? You had made the mistake, you put the inters on. Should we rectify it and, have some damage limitation here? Nah. And they didn't.
No. The only positive was Lando Norris's start, which was a flyer. That was the only positive for it. But Lando looked quite relaxed afterwards. He was a bit like, yeah, fine. I mean, he ended up DNFing. Which was a shame for him. Oscar Piastri was just going around playing bumper cars, picking up penalty points like they were like using Mario Kart. Ended up finishing P11, 2 laps behind the leader. A tough day for McLaren, and that's the second time this season. Obviously, you saw them in where were they? Where they didn't start, China. They didn't start.
Yes, I believe that was China. That was the second race of the season.
Yeah.
Obviously, you had Oscar didn't start the first race of the season either due to a crash on the formation lap. But I do have a question, and I'm hoping you can answer this for me.
Okay.
It's extremely unlikely that Matt is going to be able to answer this for me. McLaren were very fast this weekend, yeah? We can all agree on that. Why is it that they get so easily caught when they're being lapped? I know there's blue flags, right? I'm not an idiot. But how come they would have been able to battle the Mercedes comfortably, but then when they're not at the front of the pack fighting, they're able to get caught up so easily that they get lapped?
Well, Piastri ended up doing what, like 3 stops?
Yeah, but then there was still, Lewis and Max lapped him. And I just think, how are they consistently... Piastri should have been quicker if he was doing that many stops. He's getting fresh tyres.
Yeah.
How is he... Because if he was at the front, it's not like they would have been closing in on him at that rate that they were closing in on him. I hope I'm explaining this to you guys at home well enough. I'm saying, like, why is there such a difference when they're that far back? Like, why are the other cars all of a sudden then so much quicker? Because Max and Lewis caught up to him, when they lapped him, pretty simply. If Oscar was fighting them, and that was P2, they were trying to close down that gap to, it wouldn't have closed anywhere near as quick. And I wonder what that is. I wonder if that's the simple thing of when you're racing someone, you're pushing each other and you're just going quicker and quicker and quicker.
I think it's a combination of obviously his penalties, his extra stops he did, but also the fact that actually he wasn't pushing to the max. They're probably actually doing a bit of testing as well. They knew they weren't going to get anything from the race, so they were kind of trying different things.
Yeah. And just so we're clear, because like I know some of you are going to say, "Oh, you're an idiot," it's because he had all of this. I know he lost a lot of time. I'm not saying they shouldn't have lapped him. It's the sort of disparity in lap times. If Oscar was racing for P3, he would have been so much quicker than, when he's racing in P11. And I just wonder what that is.
Let us know. Drop a comment. Let us know. Obviously, there's smarter people out there, of course. So do let us know. Do drop
100%.
a comment. Red Bull. A phenomenal weekend for Red Bull, realistically. Max Verstappen picking up his first podium of the year, finishing P3. A lovely battle with Lewis. And I have to say, I love seeing Max and Lewis going head to head. It was great. Great battle, brilliant driving, great overtake from Lewis. It brought me back to 2021 and I loved it. I really loved it.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it just great watching the two best drivers on the grid go head to head? I mean, you can't even argue that. Watching Max and Lewis race, Max's overtake on Lewis as well was so Max Verstappen. It was like, he's not going to do it. Okay, he's done it. He's done that bloody like inside dive bomb again, which is so trademark of him. It's so good, but particularly watching those two race, I pray that before we lose Lewis or the way Max is going, I pray that we get another title battle between the two of these guys, because it's a level of racing that you're just not going to witness again in a lifetime. And
the overtake from Lewis was brilliant. It really was brilliant. And I have to say,
Lewis had to close up a lot of time on Max.
It was like 7 odd seconds, I think, at the time. And I have to say, the rivalry in 2021 I loved, and I love the rivalry. I love the smack talking between them. I do. But there was something which I really enjoyed seeing, the respect between both of them, sitting in the cool down room, them having a laugh, talking about their overtakes. It was just watching two greats showing respect to each other, and it was brilliant. It was brilliant. I loved it.
Do you know what I would love to see? I would love to see when they're both retired. Have you ever seen those Lad Bible videos where they'll have two people opposite each other, and it will have like strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree, and they've got to put the glass. They sit Max and Lewis down, and they say, 2021 Abu Dhabi was an absolute mess. Where would their glasses go?
I think. See, I like Max, and that was something back in 2021 I never thought I would say. But I generally think Max is quite an honest man, in the sense of he'd be quite, yeah, it's not how it worked, but he said, I think he would go along the lines of that. Across the season, I deserve to win the championship. Yes, how that happened at the end in Abu Dhabi was nothing to do with me. I circumstantially went on to win it, so why am I being punished? And Max shouldn't be punished for it because he did nothing wrong. It was Michael Massey. So I think Max would actually be relatively honest with it, but I don't know, it'd be an interesting one.
Yeah, I hope one day we get that. Just the pair of them sitting down, retired, absolutely no skin in the game, and they can just talk honestly. But yeah, look, going back to Red Bull specifically, it was a very good weekend. I haven't got the exact stat, but it was given. It's something like, this was the first time in like, I don't know what the hell just happened there, but sorry if you heard that on my mic. It was the first time in perhaps, was it 50 something races, that a Red Bull second driver has finished in the top 5.
Mental.
And
Isaac Hadjar did well this weekend.
Yeah, Isaac Hadjar did have a good weekend. I think they'll still be a little bit concerned that he finished a lap off. I know he obviously got a penalty. I think he actually ended up with 2. I think there was a yellow flag infringement, was it? And
2 penalties. Obviously,
the driving against Charles Leclerc, which I think we can all agree was a little bit naughty. I would say it was on. Yeah, it wasn't on the limit. It was over the limit. I think he
definitely double moved.
Yeah, and it's difficult when you're out there. I don't think he was trying to kill Charles Leclerc, but I do think it was a move that was just over the edge, and that's gonna be something that he'll learn with experience, because that wasn't him, being a dick or just like refusing to let the place go. It's just him driving inexperience. He hasn't got that experience that these F1 drivers had with the cool head. There could have been a potential for him to get Charles back.
Yeah. He
just needed to just keep himself cool. But that's fine. That will come with age.
On a whole, decent weekend. They're leaving from the race yesterday with 25 points. So solid weekend for Red Bull. They take a lot of promise. Right, where do you want to go? Do you want to go to Mercedes or Ferrari? Final 2 teams.
Let's go to Ferrari. We have to end on Mercedes. But I think Ferrari will also allow us to discuss the topic that we opened the podcast with.
Okay, so after qualifying, let me just get this up, on Saturday, I put in our group chat, Ferrari, what was it again? Ferrari are utter shit or something.
Utter shit, yeah. Yep. That was the word.
Yeah. And that was because, once again, Lewis Hamilton looks good maybe in Q1, Q2, and then qualifies P5. Charles Leclerc qualifies P8, okay? So Luke then comes back in the chat and basically says, will this man just be quiet or someone mute him or whatever?
Hang on. Right, if you're going to read yours verbatim, at least go back and read mine. Do you know what? I'm going to pull up the receipts. Okay, so Matt Jackson says, the Ferraris are utter shit. I then say, I mean, are they? They're literally matching the McLarens. Then I said, Lewis just made a mistake, which is true. He made a mistake in Sector 1, and he was down on his own time, despite being purple all weekend in Sector 1. Can't seem to get higher than P5 though. And I said, that cost him. It's literally nothing to do with their car this session. Then you said Charles in P8. I said they've been consistently slow all weekend. Well, Charles has been consistently slow all weekend. Lewis has been right there. You then replied, he's qualified P5 on both occasions, and both Ferraris finished P5 and 6 in sprint. Wouldn't say they've been there. And I did say this is painful. Can someone else talk to him after that point? Because I don't think Ferrari are utter shit. Yes, if you're listening and you're from Ferrari, I don't think you're shit. I think Ferrari are good. I think they're moving in the right direction. I think actually if Ferrari had an engine that was able to deliver the power that matched them with, Red Bull, Mercedes in particular, I think they'd be battling the Mercedes for race wins.
Yes, and that is the thing, okay? So in the race yesterday when Lewis finished in P2, you then quoted the WhatsApp with like an emoji or whatever.
Yeah, I quoted with the emoji where you're just looking through one eye.
Yeah, so basically going, you what are you saying now? That, absolutely fine. But I want to state my claim, okay? I'm a Lewis fan, I'm a Ferrari fan. When I say they're utter shit, what I mean by that is actually they're still the third, fourth best car on the grid. Yes, okay, Lewis got P2, but it's very circumstantial, okay? I know you have to be in the right places, and I know you have to go do the overtakes to get to whatever. George retired, okay? So Lewis would have potentially been P3. The McLarens fumbled their strategy yesterday. Take them into the mix. Potentially, Lewis may have been P3, 4, 5. What I'm saying by that is Ferrari, I know people think that they, we're 2 tenths behind in qualifying. They're still qualifying P6, P5, P8. They're not making the strides on the likes of McLaren and Mercedes. Red Bull are now coming into the mix. So actually my point is, utter shit is a bit harsh. That was more frustration that actually once again, Lewis ends up qualifying P5. It seems to be like a tradition now. But for me, yes, okay, Lewis getting P2 was great, but Ferrari still aren't making the strides that what I would be expecting to then be challenging for race wins. That's what my point is.
I disagree. I think Lewis would have qualified P3 if he didn't have that mistake in Sector 1.
But this is my point. They're not though. There's always something each.
Yeah, but
Charles is slow, or Lewis has made a mistake, or whatever. Huh?
If Lewis has made a mistake, Charles was just driving with lead in his car this weekend. I don't know where Charles's pace went this weekend. It's fine. These weekends happen, but
So
he
answer me this then,
quite
okay?
well, really.
Answer me this. Lewis Hamilton. Say George was still on the track. McLaren didn't fumble their strategy. Where would Lewis actually, if you think, finished yesterday?
I think he could have raced the McLarens.
Okay, so position-wise, what are we saying?
I think P3 would have been the best possible position.
Yeah, but realistically, where do you honestly think he would have finished if McLaren?
But then it goes back to my point. If the McLarens were anything like they were when they were lapping in the middle of the pack, Lewis would have finished P3.
Yeah, I think I get it. And look, I want Ferrari to do well. By all means, I'm not trying to slander Ferrari here. All I'm saying is same week in, week out, they're qualifying the same positions. Mercedes are always better, McLaren always better, Red Bull coming into the mix now. Are Ferrari making the strides that actually we need to be going to challenge for a championship? Because already I don't think we are.
What more do you want from Ferrari? Okay, Charles Leclerc is 13 points behind George Russell, who is in a championship winning car. Lewis Hamilton is only 3 points behind Charles Leclerc. They're P2 in the Constructors' Championship.
But George didn't finish yesterday. George, if he finished yesterday, that would have been completely different.
But then what? That reliability. That's a massive thing, especially when you come into new regulations.
Yeah.
Ferrari have hit the nail on the head there. They haven't had any issues with the car. Its aero package is very, very good. It just needs a little bit of power. And I think we know that they can't bring those upgrades. I think Lewis said in the cool down room, I don't know if you guys listened, he said something, I can't quote this verbatim, but he was like, I don't know if the car's just draggy or if, we're down on power, basically. And I think we'll find out, because ultimately, if they're draggy, all it's going to take is an aero upgrade that finally clicks them in, and they're going to be very, very quick. But I believe the car is actually very good. I do. I think they've done a good job.
The chassis is very good. Right? The chassis is very good. They just don't have any straight line speed. And
yeah. And this is an issue, It was a lot harder for Lewis to overtake Max than it was Max to overtake Lewis, and there was, because that Red Bull had the straight line speed, but and that is an issue that will cause them issues throughout the season. But they just got P2 and P4 at a power intensive track.
Oh, they'll take a lot of positives out of it. And Ferrari fans, even myself, I was delighted to see Lewis on the podium. It was great. P2, he deserved that in the end. But all I'm saying is, I don't think we're where we need to be at this moment in time. We were hoping at the beginning of the season we were going to be challenging for wins. We're not challenging for wins. We're still far off from that.
That I agree with. I don't misconstrue this. I don't think Ferrari are where they want to be, but I don't think it's as bad as a lot of fans make out.
No, but ultimately fans are always going to, Ferrari fans, and if you're a Ferrari fan, let me know what your thoughts are on this. We're always going to think it's bad when we're not fighting for wins. We haven't won a championship since 2007. Okay.
Yeah, well, you say, we haven't supported Ferrari for that time. So
the Tifosi haven't had a championship since 2007. So when we do come in and we're fighting, we're the third, fourth best team on the grid, it isn't going to be all plain sailing and fans thinking, oh, this is amazing, we're making great strides here. We want to be challenging for race wins. That's what I want to see. So that's where I say, when I say utter shit, I say it in a scheme of actually qualifying still bad. Okay, Lewis made a mistake, granted, but Charles Leclerc still qualified P8. So it is, yes, okay, P2, we'll take it. I just don't think we're where we need to be at this moment in time. And actually, us not fighting for wins shouldn't be something where actually we go, well, yeah, it's all right. We're fine, though, because, we're fighting for P2s or P3s. No, that's for me and Ferrari fans, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think is what we should be going for.
But again, it's circumstantial. We came into this weekend with no upgrades. Mercedes bought a big upgrade package this weekend, an aero package, and evidently it worked. But, qualifying, there wasn't huge gaps in quali. I mean, it
was 3 tenths from Lewis to George.
Yeah, but we know that Lewis made a mistake. Q2 in particular was very close. I just think it's not that bad, and I think it's a long season. A lot can change, and Ferrari are right there.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we've got that sorted. So
let us know who you agree with down below. Are Ferrari utter shite, or are they actually not that bad?
Right, let's finish on Mercedes. I have to say, right, Kimi Antonelli, I'm impressed. That racing against George Russell yesterday was superb. I loved it. I thought it was a great battle. And actually, sprint race, bit different. He lost his head a bit there. But yesterday, I thought it was such a professional drive. I thought it was superb. He was waiting for the right times. He was overtaking where he needed to. He wasn't going in for. I know it looked a bit close. Toto and Bono had to intervene at certain points. But for us, it's exactly what we want to see. We want to see this type of racing.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think Kimi came out in the race and was a lot more clinical about it. I think that might have had something to do with perhaps a stern word from a Mr. Wolf. But look, I want to go back to the sprint race because this whole thing stemmed from there. This was the first time we really saw it kick off between George and Kimi. And, you know, I think all of us could sense it coming. It rarely doesn't come when you've got a title battle this close. And it is close because it's very early on. A lot can change. George Russell was very unlucky, but Kimi Antonelli has an unbelievable advantage at this point. It's going to be an intense season for those boys. And I am in two minds about this first incident that they had on track in turn one. What's your opinion on it?
The issue is I haven't seen the onboard from George. So all I've seen is the rear and the onboard from Kimi. I think Kimi went very heavy into that corner. He was ahead. He could have made the corner if George had given it. But the issue is George, and I don't know if you haven't seen it, go and watch it. He clips the curb, which kind of launches him a bit. It's a tough one, isn't it? It's an interesting one because Mercedes, obviously, they're not going to argue that, are they? They're not going to say to the stewards, oh, what's this about? If it was any other team who did that, they would be on that radio straight away going, hang on, can you look at that? You pushed him off track. It's a tough one. I think you can class it as a racing incident, but I think Kimi had the right to that move.
Yeah. So that's kind of my thoughts. I think it was naughty from George. I think if that was, a Red Bull or a Ferrari that had done that to the Mercedes, they'd be on the phone because it was a naughty move. But I don't blame him for doing it, and I respect him for doing it because he's in a title battle. And, George Russell is trying to stamp his authority on that team. This is my team. I've been here 4 years, whatever it is now. And I've got a world championship to win. And would I have done the same if I was him? Yeah, absolutely. So do I think it was probably unfair on Kimi? Yes. Would I have done the same thing? Absolutely.
But even in the sprint, I thought it was great racing. I really enjoyed that. And I think when you look at the race yesterday, the battle between both of them was superb. George was very unlucky, obviously, unfortunate. If George was still, hadn't retired, if George hadn't retired, do you think Kimi would have won that race?
It's very hard to tell. Personally, no. I think George Russell would have won. I think I don't know. The locking up into, oh my god, sorry, I can't remember what turn it is. The hairpin. That was becoming a problem for George.
Turn 10, yeah.
Turn 10. So I don't know. But I think Kimi also had that mistake in him as well. And I think that was just where they were pushing each other so hard. So I don't think George Russell would have held P1 for the whole race.
No, I think pit stops would have made a big impact in that as well.
I mean, that was going to be make or break. Whoever was in front at the time that it was to take your stop, you've won the race pretty much.
But no, I thought it was superb racing. I really did. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought George raced really well. Kimi did brilliant. I just thought it was brilliant. I really did.
Look. I know people come at us when we talk about the new regulations because I feel like we praise them more than any other F1 creators. Any that I see. And I just want to say that I don't think we would have got that kind of racing last season.
No,
Relentlessly.
We had about 20 laps there of Kimi and George with a gap of 0.4, 0.5 the whole time. Okay, and that was, we wouldn't have seen that in last year's era of cars. We just wouldn't. And I think it was exciting. It was something that allowed us to have, like, I was fixed. I was fixed on this, this battle. Is Kimi going to lock up? Is he going to go into the back of him? What's he going to do when he gets down into turn one? Like, all of it, the margin for error was so thin, but both those drivers drove superbly. Really did. I don't think you would have got that last year.
It was the closest to 2021, which, by the way, those cars were terrible for racing each other, but because we had two sensational drivers going head to head at that time, we got unbelievable racing with jeopardy. And that is exactly what we had yesterday. And it was the first time I felt that, like, that real, and Lewis wasn't even racing. I've made it quite clear I'm a Lewis fan. I was watching George Russell and Kimi Antonelli race, and I was on the edge of my seat. And I think, if I think about it, I've had that more times this season than I have in probably the last 4 seasons.
Yeah. No.
So, criticize them all you like. Racing purists, I get it. I'm not against you. But surely we've got to give them credit where credit is due. Although, I will say, pretty unacceptable that, P5 and backwards were lapped.
Yeah. That is unacceptable. I agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
But Kimi, after George retired, Kimi drove superbly. He held on to that very comfortably. And that's 4 race wins in a row now, which is very, very impressive. Very impressive. I think for me, I've seen a lot of like, Kimi will go on and win championship. I'm still up in the air about it, really.
It's not as easy as that.
No, I think you can't rule out George. George drove really well yesterday, and I think if he continues to do that type of performance, I think it's going to be very close. But for me, I'm really excited to see how Kimi does in Monaco. I think that's going to be a real interesting one for me.
Yep.
Just simply because he drove that all right there last year. But there's a difference from when you're driving for a championship in this type of track. So I'm really quite interested to see how he gets on there. But no, I thought it was great for Kimi. I really did. 4 race wins in a row. It's very, very impressive for 19 years old.
He's a child. He is a child.
All right, answer me. I'll ask you this question, which I asked you last year. Mm-hmm. So last year I asked you, is Kimi Antonelli a generational talent? And you said no. I want to know now, do you change your answer with how you've seen Kimi perform this year?
4 race wins does not change my opinion, but ask me halfway through the season. What I will say is that George Russell will be absolutely shitting himself because Kimi Antonelli is, of course, 19 years old. And if he is, it's going to be a Lewis Alonso situation, right? And Lewis wasn't that much younger than Kimi is to George than he was to Fernando, right? But he will be thinking like, holy hell, like this kid has got so many years to develop and improve. And if he's already as quick as me, I am absolute toast. So, yeah, what I will say is Kimi Antonelli has silenced all his doubters. There's no 2 ways about it. But you can't hide the fact that he had a tricky year last year. But ask me halfway through the season and I'll give you my definitive answer.
How many race wins does George have now?
In total, it's got to be about 5 or 6, I would say. Should I get that up for you?
Yeah, I'm just quite curious. Obviously, Kimi now 4 race wins already this season.
I can't imagine it's too far off. 6 wins. Yeah, so Kimi didn't get a race win last year. He's two wins off, but
it's circumstance. I mean, look, the Mercedes hasn't been as good as it has been this year. So for George, it's a hard comparison, but I'm really excited. I think we got a great battle between these two, and if these two race like they did yesterday, I'm all in. I'm excited. I really am excited about it.
Just give us a title battle. That's all we ever ask for.
Exactly. But I think that is the end of the podcast. We've covered all the teams. So hopefully you've enjoyed this podcast. If you did, hit a like button, subscribe if you're new, do drop a comment. Check us out on all social media, Instagram, TikTok, we post daily. And yeah, we'll be back next week previewing Monaco. So all your comments which go onto videos we'll be discussing next week's episode. So do, if you want one to be read out, do drop us a DM, do let us know, and we'll discuss that next week. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening if you're listening on Spotify. And yeah, have a good week. Bye-bye.